And I'm Heather Branch here with Mike asking for his insight on the things you can be working on now to better prepare for your financial future. MyLifePlanFinancial.com is our website and where you can go to start the conversation with Mike and his team anytime about your retirement savings questions. You probably have a lot of them. We all do. There is a lot to figure out, but you don't have to figure it out by yourself. We also have links posted in the show notes. You can just click there or, again, find us anytime at mylifeplanfinancial.com. All right. Personal note about yourself. Because you spend your days and weeks and months talking to people about they've made it to their retirement goal line. They've saved all this money. Now it's time to live out their dreams. So getting all that insight and perspective at this age, when you and your wife are young, in your 30s and 40s, you've got your 4 kids, do you ever think to yourself, I don't want to wait till retirement to do this thing. I have this dream. I have this wish. I have this want. I don't want to wait because of the conversations that you've had at work.
Yeah, it's tricky. So doing what we do, you're very blessed to get, people say all the time, if I knew 20 years ago what I know now.
Yeah.
Most of my clients I deal with are 20 years plus older than me. So I get the benefit of their insight, their wisdom, their maturity today. And it helps me make decisions. I'm always asking people, if I sit down and they say, we've been married for 38 years, I say, holy cow, we're not talking about finances for a while. Let me just pick your brain, because Kimberly and I are 17 years in and I want to make sure we make it to 38,
Mm-hmm.
And so having those conversations is really, really fun. The challenging part can be, though, they're describing these awesome vacations and trips they're taking. Yeah. And we love to travel. And not that it's a keeping up with the Joneses type thing, but it can be like, hey, that sounds really fun. Could we make that happen? And we've done that.
You've got 4 kids. You've got 4 little kids. Whether or not they're coming with you, you got to figure out their situation, which would require some money on some level.
Yeah. And I think that, we talked about before we came on today how, you get these different phases of perspective. People tell me all the time how quickly life goes and how much like, your kid's gonna be grown and gone before you realize it.
Yeah.
And so that has really put a emphasis for Kimberly and I on spending as much time as possible with those kids. We can grow the business, we can grow the podcast, we can do all these things the rest of our life. Mm-hmm. What I can't do is have Christmases and summers with these kids at this age the rest of my life. I only get so many. Jesse Itzler famously says you get so many, you get 18 summers per kid, and that's it. And I always talk in terms of Christmases, because Christmas is my favorite day of the year for so many reasons, but also just like the nature of waking up together. We have nowhere to be. We have nothing to do. And it's all about us as a family. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And so when we have that day and the joy and everything it brings, I think of the fact that my son, who's 13, it's like I got 5 or 6, maybe 7 more Christmases with him. Yeah. But even those ones at 18, 19, and 20, he's going to be
different.
Like,
they're just different than they are when they're little. Yeah.
He's not a boy anymore. And it's going to be like, and it's onto a different phase of life with your adult friend children. And it's different and it's cool. I'm sure it's beautiful. But it makes you really reflective of some of those things. And I'm very protective of those years now because of the insight I get from the people I work with.
Sure. Right. It's almost, there's a little bit of a catch-22 situation. Like, it's great that you're getting that insight, but part of you, it also makes you a little bit anxious. Like, I'm sure.
Well, it makes you have conversations like, do we only want to have these 4 kids? Like if it goes by this quickly, what if we had more kids? Should we have more kids and restart that clock and guarantee ourselves more time with our children? There's other days when I'm like, these kids are a lot of work, and
these kids are exhausting and expensive.
Yeah. And it's like, it'd be nicer just for Kimberly and I once in a while. But one of the great things I learned from people was to invest in our marriage more and more. Take a trip, just the 2 of you, as often as you can. And up until our 10-year anniversary, we never took a vacation, just the 2 of us, because our kids were so young, you couldn't, right? If someone's always nursing, if someone's always being changed, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
But once we hit our 10-year anniversary, we decided we're going to take an annual vacation, just the 2 of us. Doesn't have to be anything huge, but we're going somewhere for more than an overnight, because you do the overnights, like a Valentine's overnight or an anniversary overnight.
Sure. It's not the same, though.
By the time you drop the kids off to get them to the sitter, it's like 3 p.m. Then you rush out to somewhere, you eat dinner, you go to the hotel, maybe see a movie or a show. Then the next day you're up, you're checked out by 11, you're heading back, and it's like a whirlwind. But an actual vacation, the 2 of us, that was a great piece of advice we got. And we've been very diligent about it.
Yeah.
to go somewhere for the two of us, and not somewhere nearby. Like we'll go to Mexico, we'll go to somewhere good, and that we can get
Okay.
away for a week. Kimberly doesn't have to take care of anybody for the week. She doesn't have to provide
That's a big
food.
deal.
We have to go somewhere that's all inclusive because on a vacation, we neither one want to cook.
Sure.
And so we do something like that, and that's really powerful. But also not forsaking trips with our kids. So it's been
Finding a
very
balance.
significantly more benefit than any detriment of getting this advice at this age. I consider it literally a treasure trove of knowledge that most people my age don't get because they spend their whole time just in the grind. So I'm very, very blessed to get that information now.
Thinking about the folks that come into your office that are hopefully now getting ready to take multiple trips a year with just their spouse or just their significant other. And what they've worked so hard to earn and save because they have these goals, these tangible things that they want to do in their retirement years. There is this notion, and I'm sure you've had these conversations talking to people, you work so hard to earn and save, you get to your retirement years to quote unquote do those things that you've always wanted to do. But then, particularly if you haven't planned appropriately, you might have a situation where you'll be face to face, especially lately, with the cost of things. You'll start to think to yourself, is the cost of that thing that I've waited so long to do, is it going to bust the budget? And so then you start to wonder if it's worth it.
Yeah.
However, there was this list that came from gobankingrates.com talking about the 4 money splurges you'll never regret in retirement. And they said that those are splurges on your health, splurges on your family, splurges on travel, and splurges on charity. So thinking about the conversations you have with folks in your office, do you agree with these floor splurges? Would you say that there's probably no regret behind these kinds of things?
Yeah.
How do you have these conversations with people to help them meet? Is it sometimes we have to pare this back or let's dial it up? How does it go?
Well, and I talk about this a lot, but this is the difference between a portfolio and a plan.
Got
Right?
it.
Like you can have a
Yeah.
stock portfolio and that's great. It does not help you make decisions. It just gives
Mhm.
you a bit of information. To go
Mhm.
through and decide how splurges work, we have this, part of our planning process. We go through and say, let's talk about the next 10 big things you want to buy. Next big 10, sometimes it's a vacation, it's a kitchen remodel, it's a car, it's all these different things. And we start mapping them out over your life because plans give permission. And so if we go through line by line and say, all right, if we do this to this 2024, if this year you take this trip, and 2 years from now you take this trip, and 2 years from then you take that, or 1 year, and when do you want to do these things? And we put them in the software and it goes down line by line and says, based on this, here's how much money you'll have the rest of your life. Here's how much you'll pay in taxes the rest of your life. Here's how your
Mhm.
social security will be affected the rest of your life. And you
Mhm.
go through and you run it all out. Well, then it's not a matter of if we can do it, because the reason people don't do things is out of fear of making the wrong decision. They're
Mhm.
afraid I'm going to screw it up. They're afraid that
Mhm.
I'm going to make a decision today and I don't realize about 15 years from now I'm going to pay the price for it. The software, the plan, the intentionality gives permission to know that we can do this based on the fact that I've already shown 10, 15 years from now, we're not going to look back on this decision and regret it. Now, sometimes we do have those conversations. Someone comes in and says, well, I hate financing vehicles, especially at today's rates. And I understand that. And they say, so I want to pay cash for this $80,000 truck. And I want to pay cash for the $40,000 RV that I'm going to pull behind that truck. And I
Mhm.
understand. And so we take $120,000 in the plan. We go well in advance. We say in the software, if we take $120,000 out, what does it do to the rest of our lives? And that'll help sometimes make the right decisions for us, because sometimes it works out great and it's the right decision, the right thing to do. Other times we say, that might be an unrecoverable decision. And if things don't go perfectly in the market, we could be in a bad spot. Other times we say
Mhm.
you can't afford to take that much money out. You have to finance it. But we can use the interest earned to pay off the financing significantly earlier than just paying it out the regular way. So
Okay.
there's things that we can do in that model, but planning gives you the permission to make the choices for your life. And so whether we look at like health, investing in your health, um, I would say the thing nobody talks about is that once health turns, it's almost impossible to turn it back. So, we see people all the time who they are healthy, 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 healthy. Then all of a sudden they hit just something and it just kind of goes. And now they don't travel. Now they don't take the trips. Now they don't do the things because all of a sudden it's like their will is gone. And that's what we call the won't go years. It's when you get to a phase of life where you say, I don't want to take that trip. I don't want to do those things anymore. And you can't flip that switch back on. It's very difficult. So that's why we encourage people so much early on, invest in your health, invest in staying engaged, invest in staying active, because that will increase what they call health span. We talk about lifespan, like how long do you live? But
Yeah.
inside of the lifespan is your health span, which is how long are you healthy, active, and vibrant and participating.
Mm-hmm.
And the further we can push that out, that health span number, and it's not used just by like financial tools, it's used by regenerative medicines and healthcare, where they're trying to figure out just how to make you healthier longer so you can
Yeah.
enjoy life longer.
Yeah.
So that's a really valuable tool. Family, I already went on for a while about investing in your family. I don't think there's any greater investment than your health and your family. Because at the end of the day, I don't think anybody ever looks back and says, man, I wish I had saved more money on their deathbed. I think they say, I wish I'd had more memories. And that's where we want to be. Travel is incorporated into that. You can go anywhere in the world, but it's who do you go with? And that can become one of the most exciting things. It doesn't have to always be family, but if you have a best friend who you've always wanted to go to Europe and bike across whatever, then go do it. You want to go on a Viking cruise, go do it. But again, the plan gives that permission, right? So we use that plan to say, where do I want to do? Where do I want to see? I had one client who said I had goal to set foot on all 7 continents in the world. And I was pretty amazed by that. I was like, man,
Even
all 7
Antarctica?
continents.
No,
I said Antarctica. She goes, yeah, it's great. You take a boat from South America, you get off, you take some pictures of penguins, and you get back on the boat for dinner.
Okay,
and,
all right. Okay.
And she made it to 6.
I get it.
She made it to 6, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And what my dumb brain should have said was, hey, that's 6. That's incredible. But instead, what did I say? Well, which one didn't you make it to? And she was like, Antarctica. And I thought, well, that's fine. But yeah, so what do you want to do? What do you want life to look like? And then charity. Charity is such an interesting one because I fully agree with it. I think that life is more than just us. It's just more than just ourselves. And there is something so rewarding to being generous. There's the running joke that there's no U-Hauls on hearses. And so to give to charity, to give to churches, to give to things that you believe in and that you're passionate about, it's an empowering thing. It's it's something that makes you feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Sure.
And when you work in a job, you are part of something bigger most of the time. Whether you're building cars or you're working in a financial industry or whatever you're doing, you're part of something bigger than yourself because I'm just a cog in the wheel. Maybe you own a company and you're like, but I'm part of something bigger because I'm employing other people. And so you're part of something. And then you retire and that element of purpose can disappear.
Yeah.
So if you don't repurpose it into something, whether it's giving to charity or volunteering, because sometimes it's not just money that you need to invest. Sometimes you got to put some boots on the ground and put your hands in the dirt and go plant some trees or go serve at the food bank. There are ways to add years to your life, and you can add life to the years. So these are all things that add life to your years. I can't say that giving to charity is going to extend your life. It'll just make it feel like you accomplished more in the time you had. And so I think those are the best things to invest in. And these conversations, how do we get permission? Not like some financial guardian at the gate who says you can or you can't spend your money, but your brain has this mechanism that protects it. And literally, if I go through and say, I don't know the result, I may be very hesitant to making the decision and doing something. Sure. So as a result, what do? Well, I guess we can't go on that trip. Why? Because what if it affects us down the road? Having these conversations, building out plans that factor in inflation, factor in taxes, factor in Social Security, factor in Medicare, Medicaid, factor all these things in. It gives you the knowledge you need to make informed decisions to do all the things you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Rather than getting to 80, 85 saying, man, now I have the money, I just don't have the time, energy, or health. So no, instead what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're doing those things early on, front loading our retirement and having a plan that protects it across the board. So that's what a successful plan is. On our website, mylifeplanfinancial.com, there's a button that says start your retirement roadmap today. And if you click on that, it engages this conversation where we just say, all right, here's some questions you need to be asking yourself. Here's questions we would ask of you. And it starts that conversation of how do we make sure that we live life with permission, not out of paranoia or fear. We don't want to be paralyzed by lack of information. So if we can have that knowledge, have the information, well, then we can go forward from there. Because again, at the end of the day, nobody sits on their deathbed saying, man, I'm glad I saved all this money.
Right. I like the idea. Planning gives you permission. to not just spend, but to do lots of things.
Yeah.
You think about one vacation that you make in your life, you plan for it. You think about a wedding or a birthday party, you plan for it. Having a 401k, having savings, that is fantastic, but that is not a plan. That's something we also try to reiterate on these conversations a lot, because a lot of people think that they show up to retirement's doorstep with that savings account and that they've got a plan. And there's so much more involved. I think a lot of people avoid the conversations because they get so overwhelmed and so intimidated. It can feel even more overwhelming and intimidating if you try to go by yourself. So that's what Mike and his team are wanting to help you avoid. You don't have to go by yourself. You don't have to be overwhelmed or intimidated. They are here to help you get to work on giving yourself this permission that you have worked so hard to earn. You deserve this in this next phase of your financial life. So let's get to work on it. MyLifePlanFinancial.com is where to start the conversation. We also have links posted in the show notes, so you can just click there, or again, find us anytime at MyLifePlanFinancial.com.